What is up, survivors? We're back for another mod review, and for today's mod review we're going to be going over the RR floating platform mod. Let's get into it. So as we can see, you're able to make giant floating platforms of different sizes and shapes, but you're gonna need this guy right here. This is the RR floating smithy. So you're gonna be able to make this on your person, place this down, and then everything that you're gonna see in this mod is crafted in this guy. It's organized super useful. Everything's really well done as far as organizing all this stuff goes. You'll unlock the floating platform automatically at level 1. So really, like, floating platforms is pretty much what I mean. It's pretty straightforward, right? They're platforms, they float. You can place them in the air however you want. There's a couple of little things and little versions of different things that we'll talk about, but what you're looking at is different sizes for each type, with the exception of a few, but we're going to kind of go over all of these as well. So let's start with this guy right here, bonk, which is I think this is the stone. Yeah, this is the stone. So what we're looking at is the small, and then this is the medium. These, you can free place these guys in the air however you want, as long as they're not making contact with the ground or whatever, and then you can build on them like normal foundations. You can pick these guys up, but as you can see, the timer is very slow, so it's gonna be really hard to pick these guys back up if you built a base on it, which I really like, especially when you start doing with big structures like this. I think that timer is super important, to have it being very, very slow so you don't accidentally pick stuff up by accident and then your whole base falls apart. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes it at all. Like I said, these are huge. There's a couple different add-ons that we're going to talk about too, but this is the textured stone look here, and this is, like I said, our small one, and then we have a medium one over here, which is, I mean, this thing is huge. Like, let me really pan up and look at this. We're in the Viking Bay in the on the Ragnarok map, and this is where you can kind of go into that cave, and it covers that whole area, which is pretty impressive. Going over here, the next one is sand. So if you want to do more of a desert sort of look, you can do that. You have sand, same deal. You have like a small one and a medium one. Going over here, we have a snow. So we have a medium and a small. We also have a grass as well. So we have the medium over here, and then the small over here. And we also have the tech of a medium and a small. And then over here, I think this is rock and not stone. So there's two different versions when it comes down to like the mineral stuff. You have the rock, which is these guys, and then the stone over there, which I guess really just depends on where you're building at or what you're doing or how you want to organize it. You'll build these things on your person, and then you'll be able to just hit whatever hotkey they're on and place them like normal terrain. And as you can see, I can place these underwater. It basically, as long as they're not making contact with the ground, you can kind of do that. So even if you wanted to use them as like almost like an ocean platform, you could totally get away with doing that too. You have pretty much free reign. Like I said, you just can't, and it looks like even certain rocks like this, it'll work, but if the game views it as like a ground, it won't allow you to do it. But yeah, it's pretty simple as far as the placement goes, and I don't think the resource harvesting is going to be too crazy for you. It is situational depending on what you're building. Obviously, like for the sand platform, you need actual sand. There's a bit of metal and a bit of cementing paste that goes into this, wood fiber and stuff, but when you're really looking at the size of what we're building here, I think it's pretty reasonable. All of it is, really. We have a few other ones. We have this landing pad, which is cool, so you can kind of have a specific landing pad to land your flyers on. I like that this is a good size because some of our flyers can be gigantor, and we're going to talk about this buggy later on. But some of our flyers can be gigantor, so the option to be able to land them on that like a designated landing station is pretty cool. We have a greenhouse version as well. This one is super cool because anything that you build inside of here will get 300%, not 300%, but the 300 greenhouse rating. So you'll have maximum greenhouse right inside of here, and then you can also tap water wherever you want to in here too. You don't have to worry about irrigation. So all your irrigation and your greenhouse stuff is done inside of here. You don't have to worry about it. Over here is the steampunk themed one. I noticed this a lot with the RR mods, and I really appreciate it that it always has something that kind of works with the steampunk. So if you're using steampunk arc, you can use this as well. And it looks great. I like the dome. It looks kind of like there's a decoration piece out of the steampunk mod that's like a giant dome glass thing that you can make like almost like a gazebo, and this just kind of made it bigger, and it fits really well. Oh man. All right, so trotting down here, we do have a couple of little additions as well. So we have railings too. So obviously this thing butts up right to the end. It's super easy just to walk over here and fall off. So we have railings. So we have you have a medium and a small for the tech and metal. Those are the two types of railings right now. So your tech is medium, and then small. So not only is the medium one longer, but it's also higher too. It's scaled just bigger in every dimension, right? So it's just bigger and longer, so you can use that to kind of go around your structure so that you're not falling off of it, which I really like. Over here is the metal version as well, and these kind of look like regular railings, like your regular railings that you would normally use. They're just kind of curved so that they fit on these bases a little bit better. And the way the curvature is set up, you want to use the small railing for the small platforms, and then you want to use the medium railing for the medium platforms. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Over here is where I was going to get into how do you connect these guys. Right now there's a couple different ways, and that's why we talked about, that's why I have all these placed out in kind of different forms and different ways to do things. So if you notice on the ends of all these platforms, you have this area here, and what that is actually like a connection point. So every one of these platforms, if you go over here, they all have these little ends, and these are like snap points that will snap these walkways to them. And as we can see, I have one of the tech walkways snapped to the end of it, and they will snap perfectly right to the end of them. Really well, no problem there, no problem at all. We also have different walkways that incline. So you have one that steps down. So if you want to step it down to another platform, you could connect to another platform down here and kind of go like up and down. We have the up one here as well. The reason why I had the foundations here was to test out how they snap to foundations, and they do in fact snap to the foundations. They don't snap perfectly though, so you might have to play around with that if that's the road you choose to go down. But I would highly suggest using the connectors here because they're made for that and they work really great. So you have the incline up, the incline down, and then over here we have the incline straight out. This is another one. It's like this awesome like rainbow bridge thing going on. This is actually two of them I had snapped together, but these will snap on those connectors as well. But I just, again, had a couple things snapped to foundations just because I kind of wanted to test it out. But as we can see, you have this cool little tunnel effect going on. It looks pretty gnarly. But yeah, you can connect all these things together really well, really easy. I guess the other thing I was curious about, and I probably should have tested this. We're gonna admin spawn me like a ceiling in here. I'm curious as to whether the end of this will... No. Nope, doesn't look like it. All right, what about walls? The wall snap to it? No. Okay, so these bridges really only snap to each other or foundations, it looks like. So they snap to each other, they snap to foundations, and they snap to these points here. So not really anything you could like wall up on the end of that or railing around. So probably want to pay attention to that ahead of time when you're building. You're going to want to end that with another platform. It's going to make a little bit more sense. But honestly, I don't really think you'd use the ceiling. That was more for curiosity than anything else. Really, this is pretty awesome, and this is kind of what I expect out of the RR mods as well. This is kind of like the same. I have the same feeling about the RR mods as I do about the eco mods. They're all really clean and they're really well done, and they work great with no hiccups at all. None. This is super smooth. It's not eating up a bunch of resources like rendering these guys in. They work great, and it's a really cool function. It's a really cool idea to be able to kind of free place these guys around depending on the area that you're playing at. I could see this being used on a lot of different maps, and even just from like an ocean platform standpoint. Like if you didn't want just the square regular ocean platform, you could put one of these like right above the water out here. You could do that. You could have them in the water. You could have them up on the mountains, up at the sky. I mean, the possibilities of doing cool stuff with things like this to allow for free placement is pretty endless. Not only that, but I can't stress enough how much I like the fact that I can't accidentally pick these up very well. That is definitely a tip that I think most mod creators should suggest using whenever they're making big structures like this that could potentially hold your base. Having that slow cook down means I don't accidentally grab this thing by accident when I'm trying to move a box or something like that inside my base. So super important. To top it off, I think the health is relatively the same. So if this is the medium tech, we're at 40,000. Let's go over to like the stone over here and see what this is. Yeah, 40,000. So it looks like the health is the same regardless of which one you're messing with. Yeah, 40,000 on everybody. Pretty much it. All right, so lastly, but not least at all, is this buggy. So it's a platform buggy. You'll be able to make it and just place it however you want, and you can drive this around. So you can drive this around, you can wield weapons while you're doing it, and you can have another person riding with you that can also wield weapons while with it. I'm gonna have to get out of this thing because I had to turn the volume down when this thing spun up because it is very, very loud when you're driving it. Definitely watch that. So the volume is super loud, but it does drive pretty well. It handles pretty well. It's really hard making movable like cars and stuff like this, I feel like, in this game, because usually when I see them, it doesn't really quite feel right, but it looks fantastic and it does fit really well with everything else going on. And the idea that you can use weapons and your passenger can use weapons as well makes it pretty cool. Turning radius isn't so great, but it does not need fuel, it doesn't look like, and no inventory or anything either. Like, you pretty much just have the option to drive here or get in the passenger seat, and if you flip it over, you have the option to flip it back, which is nice. But that's pretty much it. This thing looks fantastic though. I love it. Again, I would highly recommend this one if you like the building and the creative building of being able to pretty much build wherever you want. I feel like this is really important for something like that. You could have a lot of fun. I think just kind of expanding the areas at which you could build makes this really, really, really fun. Really ideal. I think there's a lot of really cool creative builds that could come out of something like this. I would suggest checking this one out. But that is pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That is RR's Floating Platforms mod. We'll have a link to the Steam Workshop page in the description of the video, so you guys can check that out at your leisure. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. See you on the next one.